in the yard, might need a guard. Every loss, taking to heart. Me first, that cannot be. Must be these underdog episodes, see? Feeling much better, so suddenly. Under the Monica G. Crafted at night while all of them sleep. I won't look a fool, taking this tool. Defeating the opposition around me. No, I'm not sorry. Yes, I'm taking this knowledge and party. Just barking no harm, don't be startled. Yes, I'm taking the title, and it's so vital. Thanks for the ride, I'll never be idle. Turn up the dial, it's about to get wild. And the points gon' pile up.
Dynasty Underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now. Dynasty Underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 148, Dynasty Underdog. Joining me tonight, my buddy, Billy Beeman. What's up, man?
What is good? Coming in with some energy, bro. Just coming off the Superflex show with John Hogue. Like, I don't know how I can't have energy coming into a podcast. So yeah, man, I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it before. I got a chance to. I was going to say, hey man, really good job on that. I just got done finishing. I listened to the first half yesterday and finished the last half this time. And yeah, you killed it. I mean, he's so good. He's good
great.
Too. Like, so that helps a lot. So
it does. He's like, it's easy to let him just go. And because like we both like to talk, obviously, you know, I can talk with the best of them. So it was cool to have somebody else who like, and obviously not saying this anyway, but it's cool to have somebody else who's like, just like ready to just go and talk. And you're just like, yeah, I can just relax for a second and then get ready and get back into it. It's so much fun though, man. Like you just, in the way that he does his show, like I love the way we do our show. We kind of, I mean, sometimes we build it like the day before, but we have a structure to our show that we like. He was just throwing stuff at me. Like he didn't tell me anything beforehand and just kind of was asking me questions on the fly. So it was a different dynamic, which was kind of fun to, you know, just go through the journey with him.
Yeah, as I was listening, you could tell he was just like, you know, you talk a little bit, well, a lot, but then like he had things to ask you about what you said and just kind of keep it going. Like he's professional, let's put it that way. He's
absolutely, and he tuned into our show a little bit to listen to us, and he had love for for you and Josh. So it was really cool stuff. So anybody out there who likes what we do, you'd absolutely love what John Hogue is doing over there. He's at DLF, and yeah, go check out the podcast with him. It's cool.
Cool. Let's hop into some news and nonsense as we do. Kincaid ADP check-in. So I'm guessing you want to kind of look and see where he's.
Did I really put this here? Did I really put this?
Yeah, somebody did.
Man, this could have been a Josh one. I'm not sure, but I'm looking at it right now. He's currently 110 in rookie drafts.
Basically, kind of where he's been.
Yeah, and then let's see. In Kincaid in startups is at 705 before Brandon Ayuk. That's pretty much all I have to say. Really?
Yeah, I feel like I can't judge it as much on a startup because you don't really know. Maybe someone's doing productive struggle trying to pick up picks, and they want a young guy there. I guess, but that's just not how I build my team. But yeah, that's fun. Dalton Kincaid. We'll see how that works out.
I don't remember why I put that there.
It's okay. The next one is it's obviously the biggest news as far as football kind of goes on. Dalvin Cook was released. I have my notes here. It says Dalvin cooked, which I thought was funny. But
I love it.
I mean, are we not even just Dalvin Cook? Okay, so there's multiple facets to that. You have Dalvin Cook is released. Okay, so obviously he's a free agent, and he's going to go to some team and mess up some backfield.
Mm-hmm.
But so Alexander Madison is like the hot topic, and he's kind of been like that hot topic for a little while. Like he's been like kind of like how we talked about Pollard for a while, sitting behind Zeke, like, hey, let Madison go. Like he's better than, Do you think that Madison can go in there and command 60% of the touches? Do you think he's built for it?
I mean, I think he's proven he can handle a pretty sizable workload. So I don't doubt that he could handle it for the better part of a season. But I was seeing somebody on Twitter like not 10 minutes ago talk about how he's going to get 20 to 25 touches a game. Like, no, he's not. Like they're not even going to use the running backs like that. That's kind of why I think they're okay with moving on from Dalvin Cook, because I think Alexander Madison can definitely be productive on 10 to 15 touches a game while they're passing the ball around to TJ Hawkinson, to Justin Jefferson, to Jordan Addison, Osborne and company, like, and I don't think that, and I think they do have plans of using Ty Chandler, maybe getting, oh man, what's the other guy's name? I don't want to absolutely butcher his name. Kene
Ngagwe or something.
Something like that. Yeah. So like, I think they have, and that's not even the only one. I'm missing Dwayne McBride, the incoming rookie. So I think they have a plan to use somewhat of a committee, and everybody is kind of, seeing those 6 games that Alexander Madison had with Dalvin Cook out or whatever it was in that limited work. He was really, really good. And they're saying, oh yeah, this guy is a top 12 back if he gets the workload. And I don't quite see it like that. I don't see him as that good of a back. If he was, they would have already been giving him the touches, even with Dalvin there, and he would have been signed to another team already for a little bit more money and a serious running back 1 role. And I don't really think that's what we have here.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. I think we got to sell Madison. If you have him right now, I see some trades going for him for 24 firsts, not even just 25. Those who still haven't done the rookie drafts. I don't know. He's not super young. He's coming up on that second contract type running back, which we know those guys are only going to have like a year or 2 left in them before they fizzle out, as they inevitably do. We have the circling back. You have like Leonard Fournette, you have Ezekiel Elliott, now you have Dalvin Cook. All folks who, had second chances or second contracts, and just at that position, they fade away. So the same thing's kind of true with Tony Pollard. At some point, I think we got to try to get out on those while they're still really high value.
Yeah, I've seen real deals happen 25 first, 24 first. I mean, it's a slam dunk. You just have to do that, and it doesn't matter if you're a contending team or not. You do have to kind of take the value. It's just too good to pass up. And it's unlikely that you're going to get more value for a player like Madison, unfortunately. By the way, I can't hear anything but the Alexander Hamilton thing. Like, have you seen that? That somebody did the parody with Alexander Madison?
Yeah. I mean,
so good. So that's all I can think of every time I hear his name. It's pretty funny. That's how I say his name in my head when we're talking about him. Alexander Madison.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. Yeah, it is.
All right. Next one. Clan Laybourne. This has got to be you because I've never heard this name.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not taking credit for finding this guy. Honestly, each year we do this more and more. I just wish that we dug a little deeper and found some of these kind of real sleepers, right? And this is definitely one that our DFF writer found. Actually, our our marketing manager, he found Kalen Laybourne, 5'9", 204, undrafted running back from Marshall, going into the Shanahan offense for the 49ers, right? And we know the story here. Obviously, there's Christian McCaffrey there, but we know the story with these undrafted free agents, right? And he lists them here in this tweet where he just kind of puts their year, player, draft round, and size, right? So 2022, McCaffrey, first round, 5'11", 202. 2021, Elijah Mitchell, 6 foot, 5'10", 200. 2020, Jeff Wilson, undrafted free agent, 6'0", 210. 2019, Raheem Mostert, undrafted free agent, 5'10", 205. 2018, Matt Breida, undrafted free agent, 5'9", 195. And like I said, now Kalen Laybourne, 5'9", 204. So kind of fits that mold, and apparently was a pretty interesting college player when you kind of get into it. Flashback to 2016, a young Laybourne just ran for 1,969 yards and 23 touchdowns for Bishop Sullivan. He is now a 2-time All-American, ranked as the number 1 all-purpose back by 247 Sports and Rivals. He was named MVP in the Under Armour All-American game. Consensus 5-star prospect. He had offers from Alabama, Georgia, the whole 9. get into the article and kind of see more about this guy's profile, but you can kind of just, with that limited information, pretty interesting player here, right?
That is, yeah, especially after what we've seen, you know, that year they drafted Trey Sermon, and and then come week 1, you know, he's inactive, and they're starting this Elijah Mitchell, who was getting a lot of buzz from certain people. Like he wasn't one that you're picking up off of waivers yet. He had enough buzz that like people were stashing him a little bit just in case. But I've absolutely heard nobody whatsoever mention this guy, Kylan Laybourne. Get your waivers ready.
Yes.
The thing about it that's not quite as intriguing is because they haven't really had a caliber of player like Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Starting, right? But, you know, he's still a running back, and it seems like every single San Francisco running back gets hurt. So this could be a guy. I like it. I mean, he's probably on every single waiver out there.
Yeah, he was until a couple of days ago when I picked him up off most of the waivers. But that said, I do want to give just one more shout out to Chris on Twitter. His handle is @force_fantasy. Go give him a follow. Really good stuff. He drops content like that all the time. So yeah, that was one. I also wanted to mention Deneric Prince. He's gotten a little more buzz because he's on the Kansas City offense, but another running back who is like catching one-handed passes, has pretty good size and stuff like that. So just a couple of sleepers to just keep in mind. Some guys that I've kind of had on my radar after post-draft and kind of digging up some of these diamonds in the rough, you know.
Diamonds in the rough. All right. So another one, know your hit rates. This is actually important. I don't know what you want to say about it, but I know that when I'm in like a rookie draft and I don't know, it's late second or something like that, I'm strictly going off of, at this point, rankings, ADP, all that stuff's kind of like out of the window. I'm looking for, okay, hit rates. Who actually historically has a chance? Like, you know, that's why I have a lot of David Bell from last year. And I still believe in him. He had a mediocre rookie season at best. But for someone being drafted in the round he was drafted in, the pedigree that he has, guys like that have a little bit higher hit rate than anybody who was left on the board. And so when I'm looking at hit rates, I'm always looking at kind of towards the later rounds of a rookie draft, like who do I really want? And I think that's probably just smarter than like third round, fourth round, like that's kind of like your pet cats, like get your guy, the guy that you're high on, right? But like second round, you don't want to dilly dally, right? You don't want to waste that pick. And so that's kind of when I'm looking at hit rates a lot, just to kind of make sure I'm not selecting a guy that I like who was drafted, I don't know, 80 spots later in the draft. You know, that's just not a smart move. So what do you want to say about it?
No, that's a big part of it. And that's a great point. I think the way I was kind of talking about it, and I was also talking about it with John on the Superflex show, but I was talking a little bit about kind of internalizing these things and trying to like almost memorize them, because I don't think a lot of people kind of like, I have all this stuff in mind. Like I have a lot of, you know, the advanced metrics. I want to see a lot of this stuff. Even when I'm going to go make a simple trade, I just want to know kind of where I'm going, like what I'm getting, what odds there are, you know, generally of success given the profile. And I think that it's just a lot easier if you kind of try to internalize these type of things. And yeah, like you can obviously just go and look at it every time too. That works. But I just don't think a lot of people are doing that. We do this thing where we think everybody does what we do. Right. It's like, and I said this on there too. It's the false consensus bias. It's a psychological, actually, I don't know if I said it on there. I think I said it on Twitter, but it's a psychological theory. It's a proven theory that we tend to believe the things we do are commonplace because we do them, you know, and they're generally not as commonplace as we think, especially when we're talking about a niche thing like Dynasty. I don't think everybody, I saw Swags talking about this on Twitter too, that, you know, most everybody has similar values, looking at the same things. I don't know if that's true. Like on average, I think in our little community, everybody's looking at the same thing, but that's not everybody who's playing Dynasty. They're not all on Twitter, you know?
Could you imagine playing Dynasty without Twitter or
It would be difficult.
trade calculators?
It would be
like. Could you imagine like
very...
some of the trades you would see, like nowadays? Like, just be like, are you insane? Like, I mean, in a way, I think it'd be a lot funner. Because then like your value, it is what it is. Like, and that's kind of how it should be. Like, you would never like get scared away from a trade or something that you felt so strongly about, and then you go and check a calculator or something. You're like, oh wow, that's so far apart. Like, what am I not seeing or whatever? Like, all that would be gone. And like, I don't know. I think that life sounds fun.
It does. It'd be very challenging, and the people who really, really, really follow football on an everyday basis would probably have the biggest advantage. But yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting because we are all working with a lot of similar information. But I just think that we overestimate how much we're all doing the same kind of evaluation and analysis.
Sure.
And that's why you see like wild trades happen all the time. I see them all the time. I just saw Kyle Pitts traded in a dynasty league that's been going on for years now for like 4 second-round picks. I'm dead serious. Like,
why?
That's I mean, I don't know. I know the two people. I know it wasn't collusion. Like 100%, I know. So, and it's just some people have crazy values, man. Like they just do, and they aren't going and they don't care about your trade calculator. They don't care about your trade value or your ADP or your anything. They don't care. Like they're just playing Dynasty, and a lot of people like I was putting out a tweet about about kind of trade negotiations. We're going to talk about it at some point here, and got some stuff back or some responses back that were like, I'm just really, if it's a player I like, more about having fun. And it's like, it's a competition more to me than it is like about just like going and getting a player I like and making a deal and getting a trade done. Like, I don't like that. It's not fun just to like get a trade done for me. Some people have fun just making transactions. So there's those people too, who just don't care about value like that, So I think we overstate it a lot and overestimate it.
I think you're probably right. All right. Next one, post-draft look back. I could see why doing this. I know this has probably on your mind because of the trade you made in another league where you essentially you basically made a trade for picks that you would have made if you hadn't already picked a player or whatever. Like, is it a Cooper Kupp one? But I was thinking about, man, like, I feel just like this in life, right? We teach life lessons here too. I just try not to look back. Like, I mean, all the mistakes I've made in my dynasty career, like I air them out here all the time, and like it could be something from 4 years ago, and I'm still like, golly, why did I do that? So if I could just erase those memories, that'd be great. So if I go back and look at a draft board, and it's like mid-season or something crazy like that, and I could see like some dudes balling out that like I passed over for somebody else. Like it's kind of like when I chose Robert Woods over Cooper Kupp after extensive research, just knowing based on Matt Stafford's career and who's targeted. I'm like, well, it's Robert Woods, and they were always getting drafted back to back, and I picked Robert Woods every single time over Cooper Kupp, and like I still think about that. So if I could like forget about all that, that'd be sweet.
Listen, that's not necessarily where I was going with it, but
I know
having a short memory is important. Like a good QB, you just you want to be able to get right back at it. So I'm totally with you there. I understand that. I don't like to harp on deals that I made that weren't great. I like to remember them so I don't make the same mistakes again necessarily, but I don't like to harp on them. That said, the way I was actually thinking about this was more, I think you're going to like where I'm taking this, was more, I did this in DU3. Post-draft, go look at the draft board and say, what picks, what assets, players, whatever, did I get later than a certain player that I think I can go get with those assets I got later, right? Like, like a player that went earlier. So a player goes in the 8th, 9th round, but I got a couple assets in the 11th, 12th round, right? Post draft, I'm looking at these and I'm like, I think I could sell these two for that earlier one.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
And obviously, like, it doesn't mean just because they were drafted earlier, they're going to be better than the two necessarily. But there's obviously a high likelihood that the thing drafted a couple rounds before is going to be better. There's a reason for all that. Right. So this one specifically, actually, was DJ Moore. DJ Moore got drafted a couple rounds earlier. I think it may have been before he went to Chicago. And I had 2 late first-round picks before the draft had even gotten started or anything. It was a couple, I think it may have been about a month before the draft, maybe a few weeks, whatever. And so I sent over the 2, it was either the 111 and 112, or it was like the 112 and the 201 or something like that. It was like 2 very late first round picks for DJ Moore. And it got accepted. And I was like, this is great. And then you go into the draft and I was like, wow, this is even better because these picks are really, really shaky at the end of the first. So that was just a really good way to me of looking at a draft board and finding like, maybe there's something I can do here that people aren't realizing they got their player before the picks that I'm sending them. You know what I mean?
I doubt anybody actually looks at that. Unless it was like immediately after or during the draft, like, why would I trade you this guy? I took him in the 4th, which, hey, the draft's over. It doesn't matter, right?
I waited.
Yeah, I'd wait till after. And then, I mean, I think I'm pretty involved, but like that would never cross my mind. But I like it. I like that a lot. Because I mean, say you did spitball in here. You grabbed your first round pick, second round pick, and you got him in like the 8th, and then you got another one in like the 11th. And then you just traded for a guy who went in the 6th. And if you're looking at it, you're like, there's no way you'd be able to trade your 8th and 11th for a 6th round pick. But after the draft, you could go ahead and do that. Like, that's just smart. That's just Billy Beeman smart stuff. That's why you're better at this than I am.
I appreciate it. I'm literally looking at the draft right now, so I can tell you. DJ Moore went 603. Okay. And I sold him for the 112 I had, and the 110. I had the 110 and the 112, and those were the 2 I sold for him. And I got those in the 8th round. I got the 801 and 804. I jumped up to get the 112. So I sold 2 8th round picks for a 6th, essentially.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Not too bad at all.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a startup. Could you get a 6 for 2 8s? You might be able to.
Yeah, it'd be close.
Maybe. I wouldn't want to do it. I want my.
Yeah. I mean, what did the 111 and or what did the 110 and 111 become? Like 110 you were probably okay with. 112 you were like, meh. I don't really love this player. Yeah. So that's kind of the strategy. I think that there's some opportunity there, and looking back and kind of looking at it that way, not in missed opportunities, but in future opportunities.
I like it. All right, last here with our, mostly nonsense and news. You have contender equals old and rebuild equals young misconception.
Yeah.
I mean, I like this because here's the thing. One, I never want to be rebuilding. And maybe that's a problem. Like I see that in like maybe one of my oldest leagues, Console Wars, where I'm kind of like, I'm like top 3rd in my division, but I'm not quite, you know what I mean? And I'm just kind of hovering there. Like I'm making the playoffs, so I'm not going very far. So maybe I should like try to blow it up, but like that doesn't seem like fun to me. Like I don't want to rebuild.
There's got to be a way to keep fighting.
I mean, you have like these super strong contenders with like really young running backs and really young wide receivers still. Like you don't have to be old to contend. It doesn't. It's easy to get contending pieces because they are old. Your 27-year-old wide receivers, your 28-year-old wide receivers who are still producing, your 25, 26 running backs, like your Aaron Joneses of the world, your David Montgomerys of the world right now. I mean, I know Stephon Diggs has a lot of value right now, but he's still getting up there in age. Your Stephon Diggs is Thielen there for quite a few years. Tyler Lockett still to this day. Keenan Allen. All those guys are like on the wrong side of 30, but they're still producing. Yeah, it is a misconception.
Yeah, I just think that I don't think it's impossible to build a team around having one of Jefferson, Chase, Lamb, Brown, having also one of London, Judy, Ayuk, Deontay Johnson. Actually, maybe two of those because Deontay's going in the 8th round. Like, there's ways to have point scoring players on your team that also have longevity, and then you can also have some aging players to be a contender, right? And to rebuild, obviously, you do want to be more on the youth side, but you can still have players like Tyreek Hill and still rebuild within a year. You know what I mean? And still compete and still have him scoring points for your team. So, and as long as you don't have a slew, him, Stephon, and all the other aging wide and Debo and every other aging wide receiver, you don't want to do that, obviously. But if you have those scattered amongst anchors like Chase and then another Devonta Smith in there, and then you have one running back that's young, one running back that's old. Like, there's just this misconception that you have to either go absolutely ancient to compete, or you have to go absolutely like Devi Young to rebuild the right way. And we talk about picking a lane and going hard at it. You should, but you have to maintain some balance. You have to, right? So you have to have some of those core pieces no matter what. And I think if you don't, you're not playing it the right way, and you're definitely not going to have a long-lasting dynasty team. So I build all mine, and I find that it's very, very possible to build teams through the startups, even in a balanced way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really the only way. Like, I don't want to look at my team on my roster. Like, you see a lot of times, like, oh man, look at roster bait, and it's got all these like 1st and 2nd year players, and you're like, well, that's cool. I don't know how where is that going to get you? Like, sometimes it really matters to have proven players, and especially the wide receivers. Like, you could have been rebuilding 2 years ago, and you could have had a guy like Diggs who's still kind of old, but he's still producing for you now. I wouldn't recommend, if you're trying to rebuild or retool, like, any running back over the age of 26 is probably not very good to have on your roster, and that's okay. But yeah, there's more one way to skin a cat. All right, so this next one is from a tweet I made on, the Twitter box. The reason I want to talk about it, I don't normally just talk about my tweets on here, but I made a tweet and I said, normalize flexible roster criteria in your dynasty leagues. Having to start 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs is dumb. Just make it start one of each and flex the rest. Let a manager build a team the way they want. And I thought, just knowing the community so damn well, apparently, I thought, I'd get more people agreeing with me. But what happened was I got a bunch of people disagreeing with me. In my opinion, I was kind of shocked. I really didn't expect it. You had Scott Connor, which we all know and love. He says, this actually just removes scarcity and ultimately kills the market. It turns the league into who can hit on the variance of the right players and removes any need to maximize positional value or roster construct. I get that. I get that when you're, say you lose a player, right? And you have to start 3 of them and you only had like 3 good ones. Like, maybe it makes you want to go out and trade for another one. Maybe, that's why quarterbacks are so valuable in super flex, stuff like that. And then some of the other comments were about, this guy said, assuming smart players, quote unquote. Like, I hate that. Like, it's just like when you hear like, oh, I want to be in that league. I wish I want to play with you. It's like, okay, bud.
Yeah.
Like, you're
come
the
play in the
expert,
league
my
with
guy.
me.
Are any of us really even that much better than the rest? Like, we're all marginal and just we get lucky, right? But he said, assuming smart players, which I only play with smart players, this should kill the trade market because individual positional needs are completely neutered. Takes away important draft strategy. It's like taking a game of chess and neutering it closer to checkers. So to that, I just gotta say that has not been my experience. I'm in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dynasty leagues that all have this as their setting. Start 10, one of them start 11, and it's start one of each position and flex the rest. And I find that just gives me so much more freedom during the startup and making trades. It's like I could trade away my good running back 2 to snag another wide receiver if I need another wide receiver or a tight end. It just makes accepting trades a lot easier because I'm not like, oh, I can't do that. I'm going to lose a wide receiver. Like, I need 3 of these guys. Like, I can't even make that trade. It makes trading easier for me because, like, I could afford to lose one of my running backs. I could afford to lose one of my wide receivers because, you know what? I only have to start one of them. I just think it's more fun and it gives you a lot more freedom to do whatever the hell you want with your team. I don't want any restrictions in my dynasty leagues. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want a trade deadline. I don't want a roster limit type deal. Like, I don't know. I didn't agree with any of the comments. Like, I just thought it was kind of hogwash just based on my history in playing in leagues mostly like this. And I don't see any of these things actually happening. I think they're assuming that these things would happen. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, they're 100% just that they're assuming that that this would happen, because I doubt it sounds like they don't like that setup, so they probably don't play in many leagues like that. So I doubt, and anecdotally they've actually seen it. You and I, we play in at least 5 leagues like that. I mean, I just joined one this year that was set up basically like that. And if you just think about it logically, there's a ton of different formats that people set up. It's not just like 2 wide receiver or 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs. Like there's whole slews of them. There's 1 running back and 2 wide receivers. There's 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs. There's all different setups. You know what I mean? Some people do 3 running backs. Some people, you know what I mean? They do all sorts of weird stuff. And there's all different strategies to that, right? That's the whole kind of idea, is that it creates different strategies for us. I think what it does in our minds is allows you to construct any of those strategies on this roster. You can do 3 running backs if you want. You can do 4 running backs if you want. And people will do that and do that. They absolutely do. And they don't, I've never, ever seen one of these leagues hinder trading by having flexible roster construction available to them. We just haven't seen it. In fact, and obviously this is enhanced by it being a multi-copy league and having more people, but Console Wars is like that. And we had, I mean, if I go back, and the last time I looked, there was like 30 trades. If we go back, there's probably nearly 60 trades have happened in the last 2 months. Nobody is worried about, you know, I can't start, or I have to start you know, they don't have to start a running back 2, or I don't have to start. They're going after running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. They don't care. They're going after everything, because you can do that. It doesn't make sense. Like it is not at one point hindered. And all of the leagues we're in have tons of trading. Underdog leagues are set up this way, tons of trading. And I mean, Underdog 2, not as much, but it's 100% more the people in that league, and not a shot at anybody. It's just how they conduct their business. 1 and 3 are just trades flying everywhere most of the time. So yeah, it's just a BS argument in my opinion. And I think what it is people holding on to what they're used to and not kind of adopting new, potentially better things. Not that it is better, but potentially better.
Yeah. Those guys probably still have kickers and defense in their dynasty.
Ripped it.
Sorry. I was gonna save that for after this, but it just flew.
No.
But also
perfect timing.
One more thing, and then we can move on. But I was thinking, you know, during startup, you see these, you know, these waves of players. You know, you say, oh, it's a wide receiver run, it's a running back run, it's a tight end run. Well, if you have to start 3 of these or 4 of these or 2, you know, if you have then you have no choice but to like get on board, or like you're screwing yourself. Like, here's a running back run. Oh, I have to start another one or another 2. I need to get a good one, not, you know, some RB3. And you're like almost forced to pick the next best player. If you have the roster construction limits that we have set up in our leagues, in the Console Wars and etc., you could just go down the draft board and pick value or whatever you want as you go, because it doesn't really matter. As long as you have 1 of each, you can do whatever the hell you want. The board will play out a whole different way than if the runs aren't the same. You know what I mean? You're not scrambling to just pick a player because you need to fill out a roster. Like, I never want to be like, okay, this is the 10th round. Assuming I haven't traded, I only have 10 picks, and I'd have to start 10. And I need to start 2 of these, 3 of these flex. And I got to find a wide receiver 3. And I have to pick a wide receiver here. Like, that just sounds terrible to me. So that's just another facet to the whole thing. It's like, well, it just gives you more freedom even during the startup.
You realize that's what they like about it. That's what they literally, if you read their comments, they like that they're forcing you to have to construct a team in a certain way and forcing trades, I guess. But I guess for our leagues, we don't typically see forced, and I don't think it's simply the same thing applies, because I saw Scott's thing. It's like who can find the least variance or whatever it is, right? Throughout the year, and it's like that's the goal anyway in fan. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
That's
what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do anyway. So I don't think like having flexible roster construction is like ruining. I don't know. It's not ruining anything or changing that or making it worse or anything like that. It's yeah. I think it's a flawed argument. So
yeah,
a little bit of a straw man too. I don't think any of that actual stuff is happening. So they're just kind of saying things.
I haven't seen it. And then someone also was like, "Oh, that's just like, why don't you just play best ball?" I'm like, I have to set a roster. Like,
I still have to choose whether it's a running back, wide receiver, or tight end, and I could be wrong. It's a totally.
How is this anything like? It's nothing like best ball. Anyway, I thought it was silly. I didn't see that I would be getting so much disagreement. So
you're ahead of the game, bro. Usually people who are ahead of the pack, they get a lot of pushback, and that's how it is, man. People don't like change. They don't. They don't.
The world's
like
round,
change.
guys. Okay.
Yes.
We've been knowing.
I agree with you, though. It's a much better format, and I really enjoy it. And
me too.
It doesn't impact anything negatively in our leagues. So.
No. All right. On to the next one. This is your baby, Vorp.
My baby. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I know how
Let me
goes.
get it. Let me get a sip of water.
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't even really that complicated. Before I pull up the data, sound like a true nerd here. I'll just kind of explain it really. And so what I was trying to look at, because you hear a lot about how the value over replacement. You hear a lot about value over replacement player in terms of running backs being better for fantasy than wide receivers after a certain range, right? So basically saying that when we're looking at value over replacement, we're essentially looking at what is the value of this player compared to a waiver wire player, right? So, and we're looking at it straight like in points, right? You could be looking at points per game, total points, whatever. I think the way I looked at it was total points, just because that's the source. I think Fantasy Pros has it as. So, and you're saying, and it's literally saying if Austin Eckler had 300 points and the replacement player on the waivers has 100 points, then Austin Eckler's value over replacement is 200, right? So it's just subtracting the replacement player points total from the player's total and trying to give you an idea of how much better each player is than the replacement, right? And so it does a good job of looking at, as you go down the board, seeing how valuable a position is compared to another position, right? Because you can see, maybe a wide receiver at pick 15 gets more value than the replacement player than running back at pick 15, right? And so you can kind of say to yourself, in this range, wide receiver probably a little bit better of a pick here, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the idea. Hopefully I didn't jack that up completely, but what I wanted to look at is I wanted to compare the two positions, because I wanted to test that. Like, is it really like, are running backs that much more valuable after pick 12? Like, should you just stop drafting wide receivers? Like, because everybody tells you shouldn't have all those wide receivers. They're all the same. They all score the same points, right? But I'm like, I bet the running backs score kind of the same points too. Like, I don't know if they're that different. So I wanted to look at it. And so let me add this up on the stream here.
Oh,
so our viewers can look at it. Yeah, you like that?
That's pretty good, yeah.
Okay, it's not too bad. So what I looked at was 2020, 2021, 2022, and then projected 2023 value over replacement. Value over replacement player data, right? So all I'm doing here is looking at the average VORP for the top 8, the top 12, and then I looked at 13 through 36. So I just wanted to kind of see what the difference, and I just subtracted running back minus wide receiver totals here so we can get an idea of what the difference is between the two players within each range, right? And over the last 3 years. So, and I did like a 3-year average just to kind of look at it, and 2020 and 2021 average through 13 and 36, both of those, so we can look at it. So any negative numbers are going to be where wide receivers outscored the running backs in terms of VORP, or outweigh them in terms of VORP. I don't know how you kind of want to put it to make sense to you. But anything positive is going to be where the running backs came out on top in that range, right? So just if you look at it, it's kind of interesting, right? Just starting from 2020. And I did this just for like a 3-year range and added the projected 23 because that's where we're heading into. But I did it for a 3-year range. I could have gone back farther, not probably. But I just think, the way the league kind of operates, it's a little bit shorter term windows, I think, in terms of kind of how they're distributing the ball to different positions and whatnot, right? So I think it's good to look kind of in the last couple of years in terms of what's going on in the league. So I didn't think we needed to look back too far because things can change pretty drastically. So 2020, you look here, and in the top 8, the running backs have, they take the cake. 15 points over total in terms of the difference between the average VORP of the running backs in the top 8 versus the average VORP of the wide receivers in the top 8. Then you have the top 12, very similar difference in 2020. But then you go into that range, that 13 through 36 range, right? And this is for both positions. So it's getting into, the 6th roundish area if we're looking at like a draft board. So those middle rounds, right, where you're talking about, those wide receivers, you don't really need to go after them. You need to go after the running backs and kind of build up there. Well, in 2020, there was no difference whatsoever in the average value above replacement player, or value over replacement player per position, just absolute zero, which I was actually shocked at. So 2021, I don't think I need to go through each necessarily, but the wide receivers just crushed the running backs entirely here. Okay. Come to 2022, you look at it, and there was a pretty significant shift, right? Running backs, 19 points on average over in the 13 through 36 range. And for 2023, I think this is a lofty projection, but they have it at 41. Now they're predicting some absolutely massive jump by the running backs. I don't know if they're projecting maybe the injuries to kind of subside a little bit. Maybe some of these new guys come in and do something, but that is a pretty stark difference. So take the projections with a grain of salt, I think. That said, just going to finish off here with my thoughts, and we can talk about some of the other stuff that's on the sheet in a second. But the way I'm looking at this is, I can understand, I think, if you look at the league with kind of the transition of the wide receivers, the transition of the best quarterbacks in the league aging out, kind of leaving, why the wide receiver position has taken such a hit in 2022, may also still kind of be taking a hit in 2023. But looking at 2021 and 2020, I don't know why it can't get back to that kind of range. And to me, it just seems like there may not be overall so much of a difference. There was this year in 2022, a pretty significant difference, but looking at the years prior, it just seems like it can come back to earth a little bit.
Yeah. So a couple thoughts, which, I think this is all time consuming. So thanks for doing it. If you had gone back further, which you can, I bet a lot of this really kind of correlates with strength of the draft class too. If I'm right, which I might be, 2021 saw an influx of some pretty good rookie wide receiver talent. 2022 was this 28?
Yeah, 2022 is Treylon Burks and London, right? That's that whole group.
So
none
of them really like balled out, right? Nobody had a Chase or Jefferson season.
Yeah. And 2021, I think, was Cooper Kupp's like bonkers season. So he just dominated.
So, I think a lot of this has to just do with like I know Peter Howard talks about it a little bit, like the ebbs and flows of like strong wide receiver, classes versus strong running back classes, and how that affects ADP and where we're drafting these guys. Like, we have Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson as, top picks right now, which I know that like 4 years ago, there weren't a whole lot of wide receivers getting drafted in the first, in dynasty startups, right? It was a lot of running backs. There's a lot of running back talent. Well, a lot of that running back talent is pretty old. And to be quite honest and blunt, like we haven't had a good running back class in a long time. I mean, going back, we have Najee, JT,
Swift, and
does Swift even count?
No, I'm just saying the guys that we've had. Yeah, no, it hasn't been
amazing.
amazing.
CEH was one of the top running backs, and he didn't do anything. So we haven't had a
Josh
year
Jacobs.
where, we haven't had a year where there was, the Dalvin Cooks, the Kamaras, the Leonard Fournettes, the Zekes and stuff like that. Those guys are all fading out. They're barely hanging on in the league. They're probably hanging on because there's nobody to replace them. We just haven't had a strong running back class. So I think that this projected 2023 variance thing, I think it's going to be worse because this running back class wasn't that great either. And I mean, maybe I'll eat my words, but it's just been a while. We had Breece Hall last year. Who else did we really have? Yeah. We had like some outlier guys like Algier and Dameon Pierce who were like good for your teams, but like in dynasty, just based off of history and when they were drafted, like I don't know. Yeah. I think that has a lot to do with it.
But I think but the top guys aren't really going to be in that 13 to 36 range, right? Like when we're talking about 13 to 36 picks, like overall, I think you might be correct. And also it kind of makes sense. We've had 2 down years from the wide receiver classes. Like they haven't been great in, this year either. So projection wise, I can see why they're kind of saying running back is going to, be largely ahead in terms of value over replacement player this year. But yeah, I'm just not sure. You're looking at the 3-year average, right, of picks 13 through 36. So this is excluding every other pick, right, 1 through 12. I wanted to literally just highlight that. So looking at the 3-year average, the running back edges it out by about 4 points.
Yep.
Which is fairly significant. But if you look at 2020 and 2021 average, right, so 2-year average out of those 3 years, it's 3.5 in the favor of the wide receivers. So I just think like it's obviously right now, it is true that there is more value over replacement probably with those running backs in that 13 to 36 range. I just think that this isn't a hard and fast rule no matter what year you're in. I think you need to really look at it, probably look at the last like year or 2 data to get an idea of, do I really need to be just spending all my capital on these mid-range running backs, or can I maybe invest some capital in a wide receiver who will be very similar in terms of point scoring, but also have a little bit more longevity to his career.
Yeah.
That's just how I look at it, because a lot of the drafts I've been in, I've talked about this a lot, like avoiding the running back position right now, because I think there's a big transition period of running backs kind of aging out. There's not a bunch of clear-cut ones. I would only want the top ones. So I've been drafting a lot of wide receivers. And so I did do this with some bias in mind, like, hey, like, is what I'm doing really, really going to negatively affect the success of this season or of my dynasty team in general? And looking at the data, like, it just doesn't really scare me too much away from drafting wide receivers in the middle rounds,
Yeah. The only thing I want to add to that is the thing that, I mention all the time after we had Jordan McNamara on here, kind of changed my mind about some things and how I've constructed my rosters ever since then, was just the value of having a RB2 on your bench versus the wide receiver 3. And so I still get kind of hung up on that when I'm making trades, doing a startup, or even just drafting players. I've been trying to just get the handcuff running backs a little bit more than the wide receiver 3s.
Yeah, and like I get it. I just wonder if that strategy.
If there's no injury to the lead running back or whatever, like, it's a wasted pick, right?
I mean, that's not even that. I just wonder if that strategy is more about the value of that player, if that were to occur, than the points that they would score if that would occur.
You're absolutely right.
Right. And I know obviously value over replacement is talking about point value. I'm now shifting over to, I wonder if the idea is more than just about value over replacement. I don't think when people are talking, when Jordan McNamara is saying that, all he's thinking about is running backs have more value over a replacement player than wide receivers. You should select them. I imagine he has a little bit more in mind than that in terms of the value they accrue in your league given circumstances.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's 100% when I'm thinking about it. It's 100% about the potential like trade value, dynasty value, not at all about points. Because if you're thinking about points, then what you're doing here with the VORP thing is right. If you're just looking to have a team that's going to score points, this is proof that you shouldn't be scared to roster more wide receivers than maybe the community thinks we should. But if you're looking
I just
for that
don't think you
potential
should
bump or whatever, drafting those handcuffed running backs, I think is a winning strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't think you need to be like super scared away from drafting wide receivers in that range because of the theory that like you have that like running backs automatically have more value in that range no matter what. That's definitely not the case. The numbers are a lot closer. They certainly, no doubt about it, they have more value right now. They do. But they didn't a couple years ago, and they were saying this a couple years ago still. And the data just doesn't show that. Like, and this is a very simple thing. All I did was take the average of the players' VORP in the specific range that I indicated. Mm-hmm. That's it. I'm not sitting here doing some complicated math equation and getting it wrong. Like this just is what it is,
And again, if you think about it, just making it simple terms, if you have your backup running back, say it's a guy who's getting, 20, 30% of the carries or something like that, or even less, versus the wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2 that's on a team that you don't necessarily care for, they're out there scoring points every week. That running back is not getting that workload yet. You're literally waiting for an injury to happen in order for him to take over that role. In which case, that really gives you a huge boost to your roster, which is the intrigue of rostering those guys. But if you're looking at VORP, you're looking at like end of season points and like what they really did. Those wide receivers will score more points for you than that backup running back. If that backup running back never gets a chance to be the lead. So,
yep,
fun stuff.
Yeah,
fun stuff.
Game of inches. We're really getting granular on it, but it is a very like specific analysis that we're looking at here, specific evaluation. Like it's not the end all be all, but it's just kind of more of a it's just more of like a perspective type thing in a way that you're looking at it and trying to prove to you that like it's not as stark of a difference as it necessarily I think that we make it seem in the industry as well.
Absolutely. So. All right, let's hop into some trades and non-trades. These must be
awesome.
All yours because I have not traded.
These are
I need to trade.
You need to get on it. I know. On it.
Do you want? Right, I was looking at your team. You need a quarterback.
Oh God,
you're gonna be rocking like.
No, it's gonna be Jimmy G and Dak Prescott all year, and Jimmy's gonna be fine. Don't play with me.
You think? Okay, Jimmy's gonna be fine. All right, cool.
Yes.
And Minshew. You have Minshew also. Maybe.
Yeah. That team is just, it has to wait until 25 because the picks in that league are literally have been just engulfed by Dylan. And
I know again.
And my first round pick is in 25. And that's when I think start kind of rebuilding things. I think I have a chance this year. So we'll see.
It's cool. No, I'm contending. Why don't you send me over Diggs? I have like 6 running backs. You want one?
Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I've already taken one off your hands. One Austin Eckler last year. I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. So these were all. He did. He helped me win the championship, so I can't complain one bit. Not one bit. I think I sold Debo for Eckler straight up or something like that, which I think is a pretty even deal still to this day. Like I don't think either one of us.
I'll have to look back on it. I was like, how did I get Debo? All right.
Okay, so these were actually all in the same league. This league has a crazy premium, a 2.2 tight end premium, 2.2. Yeah. So that's really the only quirk. It's a pretty deep league. I think it's like 30 or 35 roster spots, but definitely 30 with 5 taxi and it's like start 11 or something like that. Super flex, the whole normal deal, but it is start 2 running back, that kind of thing. So yeah, whatever. So I traded Michael Mayer just kept falling in this draft. He got to 206 and I was like, enough is enough. So I sent over Tyler Boyd, the 307 and a 24 third, because I really feel like Michael Mayer is near first round value in this draft. Tyler Boyd, he's 28. We kind of know what he is. Is he really going to make a difference on my team? With the premium, I just felt like it was worth what I think about Mayer. I think he can develop over a couple of years. I have Mark Andrews. I can just sit this guy on my taxi squad and hope that he develops in the way that I envision.
I love it. Not much to say about it. Like, Tyler Boyd's not a guy like I really want on my team. Like, he will score you points. Like, he's a good, if you have to start 3, he's one of those guys you can put in your third wide receiver and be fine with it. The 307, I don't want anything to do with. The 24 third, I don't want anything to do with. So I do like you adding Mayer, who I think is the best tight end in this class, to your roster. See what happens with him. I like it.
Luke Musgrave went before him, and I was like,
"Oh my god,
happening? What's happening, dude?" It was mental. What happens in this?
Talks about know your hit rates, man. Like,
I'm trying. This is some. You wonder why I kind of bring these things up. It's literally things are happening around me, and I'm just like, why? Like, what?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So these are real things that happen. I'm not making this shit up. So what do you think about this one? This is an interesting one. Samaje Perine, I forgot to add that. Samaje Perine, a 25 second for Noah Fant and Darnell Mooney. Same league, 2.5 tight end premium. Or 2.2 tight end premium. Sorry, not 2.5.
I want Fant and Mooney.
It's like an ugly trade, though, right? It's like gross.
It is. It's like, I don't know why. I mean, look, Perine is one of those players I think is going to be better for your dynasty team or for all your fantasy teams this year than most people probably think. But I mean, after that, you know what? I don't really want to wait another 2 years for a second, to get a return on my investment. Noah Fant's the most talented tight end that they have up there in Seattle. And Darnell Mooney, I've always been a big fan. So I'm going to go for the guys who are scoring me points this year.
Yeah, and there's definitely some risk with risk. I think it's baked in kind of, but Darnell Mooney, he's had, I think, a 25-ish% target share over 2 years. DJ Moore is there. He's not going to have that again, but he's a talented player who demands targets, bottom line.
Yeah,
so he's 25 years old, plenty of years left. Then you go and look at Noah Fant, still 25 years old, and he's a free agent next year. If he can ball out this year, and he has like 400 to 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, which is serviceable, and in this format, definitely can have some boom weeks. If he has 7-8 touchdowns this year, he's going to be great for my team, first of all, in that league. Second of all, he's going to get a good contract or a decent contract with, I think a more solidified role than in Seattle, where he is the best tight end, but they have a couple that they like to rotate. So again, some risk with these guys, but I am kind of basically saying, yeah, let me get rid of this pick that I can totally get back by 25 and see if Noah Fant can actually hit. That's kind of what it is in a league that really, really boosts tight end scoring. So that's the idea.
I love that one.
Okay. So this last one didn't get done. It hasn't gotten done. Actually, I followed up with the person. I was like, you see my trade offer? And they were like, I'm intrigued. I'm thinking about it. So this is all the same team. And I guess I should have said this at the beginning, but this is the team that I view as just a year out. The issue is I don't have a second quarterback, but I have a really good roster, like Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Trevor Lawrence, JT's on this team, Mark Andrews, I think Stephon Diggs is there. So this year, I don't have the firepower, I feel like. So I think I need one more year, and I'm trying to push over. I just got what will likely be a top 5, maybe earlier, first from somebody else by getting rid of DeAndre Swift. Now I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, am I ever going to be able to use Jonathan Taylor? So I'm thinking send Jonathan Taylor for Jahmyr Gibbs and a 24 first. Thoughts?
Well, my first thought is you were just on John Hogue's show, and he's the big QBX proponent, and you don't have a second quarterback. What is wrong with you?
I know.
You're like the king of running teams all the way to the playoffs with quarterbacks who shouldn't be starting, but somehow you get it done.
I've committed a sin. John. I'm sorry.
Okay. I don't feel comfortable without 3, but I don't think you'll get it done. people have soured
You
on
don't
JT
think
for
I'm
whatever
good?
reason. I don't think so. I don't think the
I
person
don't
who
like
just.
that bad juju.
I'm just saying, is this a startup?
No, we're like 3 years into the league.
Okay, so yeah, somebody drafted Gibbs with their rookie pick, right? 104,
Yeah.
105.
Yeah.
And he's new and he's fresh and he's right there. It's a new toy. And now he's got to think about, hey, do I want to give up my next Gibbs next year for JT, who just like shit the bed last year? I would be surprised if you get this done.
Okay. Oh man, I'm gonna try to go add like the littlest thing and see if
But
I
the
can
thing is,
push
like,
it over the edge.
I don't mind it either way. Like, I would love to have JT, and I'd give up Gibbs in a 24 first. Screw
Yeah,
it.
no, and I'm
And
not
then the
sitting here.
same thing around. Like, I think it's a good, fun trade, but I just think the atmosphere around the players, it's going to be a tough sell.
He's intrigued. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying. But no. I hear what you're saying, and I wouldn't be upset like holding JT. And I think there'd be plenty of opportunities to move him between now and when I need to. But for my team, it just makes a lot more sense to try to double up on my asset in a way where I think Gibbs both will maintain similar value, not the same, but similar value as JT in that range. And if he has a good season, I mean, he could surpass him by some crazy, it's not out of the range of it's not out of the realm of possibility that he is just better. Like, I have had my concerns for sure, but I've been buying into the profile a little bit more, especially for fantasy. I think it works. I kind of like the landing spot and trying to find ways to, sometimes you got to take those risks if you want to rebuild and you want to do it quickly. And I think that's kind of a way to do it. Get a similar type valued asset plus a first.
Yeah. You're not too worried about being overweight on Gibbs?
I don't really like, I don't,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that would be like I think my third share in like 14 leagues. So I don't think it's really overexposed. But I also I have 7 shares of Mark Andrews, and my teams were super competitive last year. I have 7 shares of AJ Brown and T Higgins. Like, I don't really if they're good players, it doesn't matter if I'm overexposed. Yes, Gibbs, obviously we don't know he's a good player yet. That's for sure. So I could get overexposed to it, but I don't know. Like I said, I could hold on to JT and it'll be fine. But I think this is a good deal for JT. I think this is a good deal.
Too. Cool. Anything else you want to talk about?
Oh man, no, that was good.
Tonight.
No, cool. Yeah, I have lots more I want to talk about. Don't let me break out the notes, man. Come on. No, go check me out on the Superflex Super Show with John Hogue. It was really, really fun time. Talked a whole bunch of strategy. Hop into our Discord, Dynasty Underdog Discord, free, easy.
It's great.
It's growing. I love it, dude. It's actually really cool. It's slowly growing, but it's a really fun time in there. We have great people, lots of conversations, always going. So it's great.
Yeah, I feel like I spend more time, actual time in there commenting and talking to people than I do on Twitter. And on Twitter, 100%. I'll read through and I'll say something here and there, and then it's whatever. So, but the Discord, it's a community. So I like it. And it's getting a little bit bigger. It's fun. Come join us.
It is. They're trickling in, but that's how it works, man. Yeah, it's great, and I love all of the Discord members. We have such a good time in there, dude. And they content's created through there. We get stuff for the show all the time, and just I don't know. There's really good advice, and I was saying to John actually too, how I think a lot fewer of our Discord members are on Twitter than you would think. They have a Twitter. I'm not saying they're not on there, but they don't spend a lot of their time on there. I don't see them on there much. And they're some of the sharper players. Our Discord members are legit Dynasty players. They're all really, really good. So it's really cool to have built up that community and have that resource, because they help us, I think, sometimes too, just as much as we help them probably.
All the time.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, folks, for giving us a listen to this week's episode of Dynasty Underdog. Follow us on Twitter, of course, at Dynasty Underdog. Follow me at Uriah Dawkins, Billy at Willie Beeman DFF, and Josh, who should be with us next week, at Josh M. Goldberg 92. Join the Discord. Like us on YouTube. Check us out. Have a good night.
Later.